What's one of the most iconic and versatile military machines of our time? That's right, the Blackhawk helicopter. As we take a closer look at the role of this remarkable aircraft, we'll be transported back to the early 90s, to the desert sands of Kuwait and Iraq, where the Blackhawk played a critical role in the success of Operation Desert Storm. But this is not just a story of the past, as we will see how it continues to play a crucial role in the modern military. So fasten your seatbelt and get ready to experience the power and versatility of the Blackhawk helicopter. Built in 1974, the Blackhawk is a creation of the Sikorsky Company, founded in 1923 by Igor Sikorsky. But the Blackhawk was not the first product in Sikorsky's legacy. The Sikorsky R-4, the first military helicopter used by the United States Army Air Force, was designed by Sikorsky. The R-4, also known as the Hoverfly, had a brief production run that ended in 1994, but Sikorsky was just getting started. The recognition given to Sikorsky's company only fueled their efforts to innovate aerospace technology. He envisioned a new way to fly, and in 1939, he debuted the VS-300, a single-engine plane with no wings. Instead, 3 long blades extended from a central point above the fuselage. Sikorsky's aircraft would lift straight up into the sky as these blades were spun by a 75-horsepower rotary engine, eliminating the need for long runways, or any runway at all. Within a decade, the Army considered helicopters absolutely essential and looked for a chopper capable of fighting back, a chopper designed specifically for an air assault role. It had to be quick, powerful, and tough. Despite stiff competition from Boeing and Bell, Sikorsky Aircraft, the company founded by the SV-300's inventor, was awarded the contract to build America's next workhorse copter. The UH-60 Blackhawk was born, and it was named after the Sauk tribe's Native American war leader in the Midwest. The UH-60, designed to carry 12 fully equipped military personnel into battle, entered service in 1979, 5 years after the first prototype Blackhawk took flight. Military helicopters were usually grouped into 7 categories: attack, transport, observation, utility, maritime, multi-role, and search and rescue. But the Blackhawk isn't just an ordinary helicopter. It's anything but ordinary. They are unique because they are used in more than one of these categories and are thus classified as multi-role crafts. In 1983, the Blackhawk was first used in combat during the invasion of Grenada. One stayed in the air after taking 76 bullets, while another returned home with 47 holes. Since its introduction, the Blackhawk has accumulated more than 9 million total fleet hours and has supported soldiers in every major contingency operation conducted by the Army, including Panama, Iraq, Somalia, the Balkans, Afghanistan, and other areas of the Middle East. The Blackhawk helicopter is considered the workhorse of Army aviation, with multiple versions in service. Similar to how Toyotas are considered workhorses in the automotive world. 3 words are commonly used to describe the Blackhawk: durability, survivability, and crashability. Aside from being the primary tactical transport helicopter for the United States Army, approximately 1,200 operate in 30 partner and allied nations, making the Blackhawk an essential component in enhancing partner capacity. Even though the Blackhawk helicopter had been around since 1979, it didn't get famous until the 90s when it was used in Operation Desert Storm. It's like the helicopter kept its head down and worked hard for a decade before it got its chance to shine. President George H.W. Bush announced the start of Operation Desert Storm on January 16, 1991. It was the start of a military operation to drive Iraqi occupiers out of Kuwait, which Iraq had invaded and annexed months earlier. Over 900,000 troops from a union of 12 countries led by the United States had been stationed in the area for weeks, with the majority of them near the Saudi-Iraq border. After United Nations set deadline for the withdrawal of Iraqi people passed on January 15th without an Iraqi response, coalition forces started a 5-week aerial and maritime bombardment of Iraqi command and control targets. And despite widespread concerns that Iraqi President Saddam Hussein might order the use of chemical weapons, there was a ground invasion that February. The Blackhawk helicopter was a total boss during Operation Desert Storm, as it was used for a broad range of tasks. Its ability to transport troops and equipment quickly and efficiently was one of its major successes during the operation. It was like a speedboat in the sky. Because of its high speed and long range, the helicopter was ideal for transporting troops and supplies to the front lines. Furthermore, the Blackhawk was extensively used for medical evacuation, also known as the dust-off mission, to quickly and safely transport wounded soldiers out of harm's way. Black Hawk helicopters were even used in super-secret special ops missions such as search and rescue. The Special Operations Forces, or the SOF, utilized them for infiltration and exfiltration, troop insertion and extraction, reconnaissance and surveillance, and other special operations. The Black Hawk was a total game changer in Operation Desert Storm, providing mobility and versatility to coalition forces, and it played a key role in Operation success. Retired Chief Warrant Officer Mike Durant was one of approximately 697,000 American service members who played some part in the war. In an interview, he said, "I was the pilot in command of one of our specially modified Blackhawks configured as an attack helicopter. Those missions were incredible. Long range, bad weather, enemy threat, far behind enemy lines. It was about as good as it gets for someone who wants to be at the point of the spear, and that's what I wanted to be doing at that time. I fired the first shots from an armed US Black Hawk in combat. At the moment, it was quite the experience." David Chiola, one of the big shots at Sikorsky, says the whole point of the Black Hawk is to bring the boys home. And it's pretty darn good at doing that. But even the military marvel has one haunting memory. Black Hawk choppers were used for Operation Gothic Serpent, an operation that didn't go quite as planned. The events during this operation inspired the 2001 film Black Hawk Down, when 2 Black Hawk helicopters were shot down over Mogadishu, Somalia. You know things are pretty bad when Hollywood dedicates an entire movie to it. Outside of the military, some Black Hawks are being used to fight fires, and they're called Firehawks. Like in California, where there are always wildfires, you'll see them in action. And sometimes the fire department even hires military veterans who have flown the Black Hawks in combat before. Black Hawks also provided relief to the World Trade Center after September 11th by carrying doctors and medical supplies. Here are just some of its impressive safety features. If one of these engines gets knocked out, the Black Hawk can still fly with the other one, and the parts of the helicopter can take a beating and keep going. Like the gearboxes, they can lose all their oil and the Black Hawk can still fly for an hour. Imagine if your car could do that. Also, the rotor blades are made of titanium, so they could take a lot of hits and still keep the helicopter in the air. The fuel tanks and lines can seal themselves to stop leaks caused by gunfire, and the flight controls are run by hydraulics, so if one system fails, another takes over automatically. Pretty impressive, right? For nearly half a century, the Black Hawk has been the primary medium-lift multi-role helicopter for the United States Army. Although it has been around longer than the majority of the current generation of soldiers it supports, the Black Hawk won't fade away anytime soon. With major upgrades such as the improved turbo engine on the horizon, the platform will remain an important part of the Army aviation fleet until 2054. Right now, the Army is still making the Black Hawk even better. They're adding new technology to make it faster, more reliable, and easier to fix. Aside from the new engine they're putting in, they are also making changes to the frame to make it stronger and safer, and even switching out the tail to make it lighter and more flexible. Lockheed Martin, who took over Sikorsky Aircraft, now makes 4 different types of Black Hawks. There's the armed Black Hawk, which is like a flying tank with weapons that could take out moving and stationary targets. Then there's the HH-60W combat rescue helicopter, which is built to survive in dangerous airspace and has extra fuel for long-distance rescues. The UH-60M is the newest version for the US military. It's got bigger blades for more lift and fancy new controls and screens. And the last one is the S-70, which is just like the UH-60M, but made for other countries like Poland. In the US, Black Hawk models are also available to the public, so theoretically, even you could get a Black Hawk chopper if you wanted. Although it won't fire missiles, it sure beats getting a Civic for your Sweet 16. But that's not all. In what could be the biggest shift, Sikorsky is doing something pretty wild with the Black Hawks. They're trying to turn the older ones into drones that fly themselves, and they're working with this program called ALIAS to make it happen. If this works out, both old and new Black Hawks could fly cargo and people around without a pilot inside. It will be a total game changer for the Blackhawks and the transportation industry. And while it would certainly be exciting to fly a Blackhawk like a drone, nothing beats the raw adrenaline that comes with flying this powerhouse to defend your country. In the end, the Blackhawk has only one mission: to survive, and it has always done so in style.